Do you know there have been 11 earthquakes in the last week?
Welcome to the show. Tired of the hype about living the dream? It's time for truth. This is the place for tools, power, and real talk so you can create the life you dream and deserve. Your ultimate life. Subscribe, share, create. You have infinite power.
Hi, welcome to Your Ultimate Life. No, I'm not doom scrolling, and no, I'm not talking about, the world falling into a big maelstrom in the ocean. Here's why I said that about the earthquakes. I was thinking about reconstruction. So I was thinking today's title is Relief Is Not Reconstruction. And, you could have the example of if you go to the doctor and get sick, if you've been sick for a month, you may get well, but that month of inactivity or, lack of business or lack of physical movement isn't fixed. There's a process that has to go on. And so as a really big example of that, I thought about earthquakes. And so I thought I remembered recently there being an earthquake. So I just typed in recent earthquakes. And magnitude 5 earthquake isn't very big, but this listed all the earthquakes from 5 up to one that was 6.3, which was just a few days ago. And I didn't realize it from July 30 to August 4th. So 30, 31, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6 days, there are 11 earthquakes around the world, bigger than magnitude 5. I'm not talking about tiny ones. And, 5 doesn't tear down buildings, but 6.3 can and cause tsunamis. Anyway, my point was this. The earthquake happens. The tsunami comes, washes away things. You can think of a hurricane, the same thing. Relief is when the hurricane's over or the earth stops shaking. But after that, there's this whole process of reconstruction that has to happen, or here we sit in a pile of rubble, right? Now, how that applies to creating your ultimate life is really simple. When I talk to people, and I talk to several a week, I just got off the phone with a gorgeous, powerful person who has incredible talent, skill, story, and has overcome many obstacles, etc., and now is living, a very powerful life and dedicated to helping people and loving and serving, which is what we're all built to do. That comes after a crash, usually, or maybe many difficulties, and then we get up and climb the mountain. So it's like, a hurricane and then reconstruction. Now, here's the thing. If we don't do the reconstruction, nothing happens. We're just sitting in the aftermath of the hurricane or the tsunami or the earthquake or whatever. And nobody's happy with that. But you know what? There's a multi-billion, 10 billion, 100 billion, I don't know the number, but it's a ridiculously large number of conferences, books, gurus, a whole business around helping people get relief. Get relief from pain. Emotional pain, relationship pain, spiritual pain, mental pain. Get relief, get relief. And that's super important. Me, I'm struggling, with back pain. I'm a few months away from having back surgery where they're going to screw the L5 and S1 vertebrae together on both sides because the disc is gone. And so for the last 3 years ago last month, starting July 23, I've been, walking on a cane and having pain and difficulty and trying different pain remediation methodologies, everything from meditation to massage and pain relievers and just all kinds of stuff. And it works. Some of it works and some of it works well. I've had nerve blocks and, cortisone shots and hyaluronic acid to repair the disc, and, compensating walking a little bit, tilted has caused pain, the drill. And this isn't about Kellan's pain. My point is that stuff is broken, and relieving the pain has been important, because if I don't, I am prevented from doing everything I'd like to do, certainly physically, and sometimes if things are painful enough, spiritually or mentally. So that's not a surprise. Now, I'm assuming, and I've talked at length to the doctor about this, the surgeon, that what's going to happen is those nerves, the big nerves that come out between L5, which is the lowest lumbar vertebra, and S1, below that, are pinched badly. You've seen the x-ray. They're flat together, and so the nerves usually show up as little white circles, and they're gone. They're black, meaning that it's flat. So those nerves are damaged and badly pinched, and nerves can regrow, but not while they're being smashed. So what they're going to do is screw those two vertebrae together, drill a different hole so the nerves can have an escape without being pinched, so they can come out some other way, right? And then that means over time the nerves can regrow and will, and I should be in a place where I don't have any pain. Presumptively, doesn't always work perfect or whatever, but that's what's going to happen. And it's taken me 3 years to decide to do this and to get here. Now, here's the thing. Even if that removes all the pain is gone. My left thigh muscle has been in a state of atrophy because of blood flow. The nerve is being pinched and it decreased the blood flow. So my left thigh muscle has shrunk a little, and it hurts, and it's a little bit weaker and everything else. Who cares about Kellan's, problems? But the thing is there is an aftermath. When I had pneumonia, double pneumonia, and I had necrotizing MRSA in both my lungs, which is a fatal bacteria, in 2018, and of course I flatlined. But my lungs were so damaged, they told me when I left the hospital, I may never get full lung function back. And here I am 8 years later, and I still don't have all my lung function back. I get winded more easily than I should, et cetera, et cetera. So my point is this. When we have been struggling in our lives with anything, physical, emotional, leftover mental stuff, trauma, all of that, when we've been struggling with something in our lives, the first order of business is we've got to get that healed. So I go to the doctor and, get a medication if I've got an infection. I go to shrink if I need to talk through some things and get, some kind of treatment. EMDR is something I've tried, really enjoyed it. Rapid eye movement desensitization reprogramming. Eye movement desensitization reprogramming, I think, is what EMDR stands for. And the guy that I went to for many weeks, over some months, was good at it, and it was helpful. I found it useful. And after the pain is gone, the relief has come, reconstruction starts. Reconstruction can't start till we clear away the rubble of the earthquake, right? We can't build on the rubble. And we have an umpty-zillion-dollar business in the personal development industry that makes me mad, because there are a boatload of healers of all different modalities, and they are good and well trained, and we need them. And what makes me mad, it doesn't make me mad, it actually makes me sad, is we act like healing is the end. Healing is step one. Getting healthy removes the first barrier. Think about that. But it doesn't remove years or decades of habit, identity, or structure. So I want you to think about that, because getting healed or unblocked, or spells broken. I hear that language, or unblocked, barriers removed. I even say that. I say I share frameworks and tools that melt barriers, move mountains, and mobilize superpowers so you can be who you imagine. But the key is the "so you can be" part. Because even if every barrier is melted and mountains are moved and the superpowers are mobilized, if we don't get into the "so you can be," nothing happens. And that's why you see people going to conferences again and again. I have a friend who says, I released so much baggage and so much stuff and peeled so many onion layers. And, you've seen the language. And then in 2 months, I had such a breakthrough. That's not enough. If you want to live your ultimate life, purpose, prosperity, and joy, if you want to make a huge impact and affect 1 million people and be rolling in cash because you're so effective, you need to do something beyond 1 million breakthroughs. 1 million breakthroughs is the ante. Hear that, and you can get mad if you want, but it is just the start. Okay, even if you're completely well now, it's not the same as knowing how to live. And then, assuming that as soon as I'm well, then I automatically know how to live is like saying, oh, wow, I went to the doctor because I had a heart attack. And I didn't. But if I did, and they looked at my cholesterol and it's terrible, and I have plaque, and I have this and that. And even if they do bypass, a umptuple bypass, and it all works perfect, my diet, my habits, my lack of, or the amount that I exercise, all those haven't changed because that's how I got to this place. Now, in that example, it's stuff I did. I didn't exercise, I ate crappy and whatever. And I didn't have a heart attack, but you know the drill. So whatever we've done, or whatever has been done to us to get us to where we are stuck, broken, suffering from trauma, struggling, buried under, not good enough, and all kinds of negative thoughts, the barriers that we work on in the personal development industry, even if we eliminate all those, even if we wake up and we are so connected, our old habits are going to ruin us, our old practices are going to ruin us, and our old language and stories are going to come in unless we take step 2. So all that is leading up to step 2. So if you're only sick for 5 days, you maybe bounce back quickly, right? But if the pattern of behavior and beliefs and thinking has been there for years or decades, relief doesn't put you on, it doesn't create your ultimate life. You got all these old habits and fears and old relationships and reinforcements and old identities and old triggers and old agreements and old avoidance and old nervous system patterns, old money stories, old communication patterns. The pressure is gone, but the architecture is still old. Okay? Healing removes pressure. It doesn't create architecture. The absence of pain is not the presence of purpose. And I'm excited about talking about this. Why? Because it is so important to me as a coach, as a mentor, as the sovereign architect. My job, I've assigned it to me and I've agreed to take it on, is to create 3,000 millionaires. You want to be one? 300 deca-millionaires, meaning that you make $10 million a year. You want to be one? I know how to do that. And it may start with some healing of, old trauma and pain, but I just hear so many people that get stuck in that place, more layers, more that, you know what? Done. You've got to get that done. And then start on the building. We've got to redo the stories, rebuild the architecture, create the architecture of success. The phrase that I use is moving from the swamp of learned helplessness addiction to mediocrity and victim mindset to the marvelous mountain meadow, and yeah, that's alliteration, of fierce life ownership, radical excellence, and a passion to serve. Now, those three descriptions, addiction to mediocrity, victim mindset, and I forgot my own third one, addiction to mediocrity, victim mindset, and learned helplessness. Those three don't cover the whole waterfront of every way that we get in our way. Old triggers from trauma. When I did the EMDR stuff, I was focusing on things that had triggered me before that had happened and then reframing them all, and it worked really well. And that reframing didn't change old stories. It just changed how everything felt. And I realized they had no power anymore, but I still have to go do the work. And so no matter what the healing modality is, it's just the beginning. It's the door. It's the key to walk in the building. And we've got to get on with the building, the rest of the process. And that's what I have as a bee in my bonnet or a burr in my sock or whatever you want to say about our self-help industry, personal development work. We stop at the starting gate. Relief's beautiful, but it's not reconstruction. And here's why we confuse relief with readiness. The emotions are clear. When we feel lighter, they assume that they're ready. And they are for a second. But right away, old life comes in. How many people say, I finally feel free? The block is gone. I can see clearly now. The old song, I love it. I know what to do. Everything is different now. Okay. Different doesn't mean durable. Your old life has momentum. Your old habits, relationships, practices, environments, stories, decades or years of behavior don't disappear because a session or a release or a barrier is blown up. It doesn't disappear. Relationships expect the old you. Your calendar still reflects the old you. Your business still runs on old assumptions. Your bank account reflects the old choices. And so here's what happens. We have these breakthroughs, and then we go back to the old thing. And how many times have you heard people say, oh, I had this breakthrough, I went to this conference, changed the world, everything's going to be cool. And then life got in the way. Life got in the way. Bullshit. You didn't change the surroundings. So you went out, you got washed, and you came back right in the same place. Same habits. You got up at the same time. You did the same things in the morning. You went to the same things on the calendar and your business and prospecting and acting, and it all was the same. And suddenly, even with the breakthrough, you're in the same place or nearly the same place. So what do we do about that? You know what happens? Frick, I need another book. I need another dose. Where was that? Do they have the recordings? Can I download the recordings? And maybe the recordings hit you again just as hard, although there's something always to be said for being somewhere in person. Maybe they slap you around and you're awake, but then the same thing happens. So you go to another conference and you buy another book and you go to another guru and you figure out a new way to heal. The problem isn't healing. The problem is after healing, what is the action? So if I talk about the heart attack thing, right? And you go and you don't change your diet and change your exercise, you're going to be right back there in a year or two, right? Number 2, number 3, and then pretty soon it's going to be number dead. Now, when I was 80 pounds overweight, in my late 30s, I'd had a sedentary job and ate crappy, et cetera, and I got fat. And I didn't want to be fat because I had young kids, and I'm like, I'm not going to be the fat dad that can't play with his kids. So I did 2 things at once. I didn't have any surgery or have any drugs. I just did everything the hard way. Changed my diet, and I went back into martial arts. I picked a place that was close by, so I'd go all the time. I started going twice a week, and working out every day at home. And pretty soon I lost a bunch of weight, 50 pounds. And then I had to start working out twice a day because I plateaued going down. And finally I went down to 60, 70, 80 and actually lost 90 pounds. And that was a little too much. I was a little bony, and so we had to put some muscle weight back on. But point is, I did the second thing at the same time. I taught myself a new way of being, regular exercise, because that was the thing I used to heal the problem. When you go to read a book or go to an event or, have a coaching session or a hypnosis session or anything else, it's not enough. It is not enough. The old patterns will wipe you out unless you teach yourself a new thing. Like when I did the exercise, I used that to lose the weight, and it taught me a new thing, and it took me most of a year, 9 or 10 months to lose that. And so I created this new person. That's the key. You have to become somebody else. The healing is just the start. So the breakthrough may be instant, but the rebuild is not. And the old identity doesn't retire politely because you had a powerful moment. And this is what goes on in our heads. We think we're going to go have this breakthrough. It's going to fix everything. And when it doesn't, then we think we need another breakthrough. Oh, I need more release. I need to work through more things. Maybe there are a few more, but it won't matter even if you do it 10 times and they're all gone because the habits you had are the same. So here's what we have to do for real reconstruction. Okay, the moment has to happen. You see a new thing, you slam your fist down. I'm not going to be the fat dad was mine. But you have to rebuild your identity. I am no longer the frightened, lazy, procrastination, perfectionist, poor eating, whatever it is, physical, emotional, business. I'm no longer that person. I've got to rebuild my identity. And that doesn't start after you have success. Identity and belief comes first. I am a different person. I am in shape. I am a black belt. Now, there's lots of martial arts schools that, have a little form. You go through the formula for a year or two, and they automatically give you, belt advancements and stuff. This particular school wasn't like that. There was a dad and 2 sons, and they were all competitive fighters. And so this was hardcore blood on the floor. And I liked it that way. It's why I picked it. And I was grateful it was close to the house. So when I earned my higher belts and eventually got black and 2nd degree black, it was blood on the floor, literally, to get that done. So it changed my identity. I changed my identity. I am capable. I am in shape. I am powerful. I am that. And I reinforced that identity with regularly going. At first, I was worn out and tired and sore and it stretched muscles too much and all the rest. So identity has to change. The second thing we have to change is our environment. If we go right back to the environment that either put us in or reinforced the old identity, we're screwed. So we see this all the time with abuse. A spouse abuses another spouse, and people see it, encourage them to leave or report it or get help. They lie and they go right back to the same environment because of fake promises and, the cycle of abuse. And so the environment has to change. Now, I'm not saying it means leave a relationship, but if you get up at the same time and you eat the same things, you talk to the same people, and you do the same stuff, you're dead. You have to change your environment. And how you change it is up to you. I don't necessarily mean, hire somebody for feng shui and fix whatever. Maybe that's what you need to do. So environment is what things are there that encourage you. What things are there that pull you down. That might be people. It might be where you sit. It might be change where you work, near a window and sun. It might mean a lot of things, but you have to look at it and say, what environmental factors pull me down and which ones lift me up? The third thing is tied to that also, and that is your habits. This one, for me, is super, I can't say enough supers, powerful. And here's why. I had a habit of making excuses about how I prepared myself for the day. And you say, what the hell is that? Prepare yourself for the day. Well, when you get up out of bed, you get dressed, right? So that's preparing yourself for the day. You don't go to the office in your pajamas or naked. So you do some things already that prepare yourself for the day. But most people's habits are barely get up in time, throw some clothes on, comb your hair, look at your email, hope you're not late, and get moving. And if you work for yourself from home, it's worse than that. And you start work late and later and get mad at yourself and, scramble and all that stuff. If you recognize any of that stuff, that is an indictment of you. It's not an indictment of you. It's just bad habits. Habits make great servants and terrible masters. So what habits would move you forward? I've shared mine, my habit in the morning, and I never miss, ever. I get up and I do a creation process. It started at 40 minutes. Now it's expanded to 2.5 hours, not because I have to, but because when I do it, it creates 5 hours in my day. I get twice as much done as I ever do or would skipping that routine. And I used to, have trouble doing it. Did it sometimes. Oh, I got up late. That excuse. Now, for several years, I never skip. Ever. None, zero. When I travel, when I don't, doesn't matter. Why? Because I don't want to go to work naked. That simple. I'd no sooner skip my daily habit of creation than, run outside in minus 40 here in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, in the winter in minus 40 degrees naked in the snow. I mean, I just don't. So that's a habit that I've changed. I've changed other habits, the language that I use, how quickly I speak as opposed to wait and listen more, how much I listen versus how much I talk, catching myself with a thought of judgment about someone as opposed to just being patient and seeing what I need to see. Lots of ways that your habits can change. Your work might change. How you offer things. If you offer stuff for sale, I'm a coach. I help people write their books. I help people create programs and services. So those have changed dramatically. Your relationships might need to change, will need to change. I say might, that's wishy-washy. Any relationship that pulls you down needs either adjustment or termination. End of story. Any relationships that build you up need to be strengthened or created. Living in a circumstance and tolerating relationships that destroy you is a damnable offense to your divine identity. So when after these moments of, flash of lightning, you got to make declarations. Who are you now? What is it that you no longer believe? What do you stand for? And it doesn't count if you do some page at an event and say, okay, I'm this and I'm that, and then take it home and put it in a drawer. If it doesn't light you up, it doesn't count. And so you have to declare who you are and then use it. And like I said, your environment has to be changed or removed or redesigned. And your daily habits have to prove the new identity, right? So how do you create? How do you sell? Who do you serve? Those things have to change or the insight won't matter to you. All right, so a liberated person with an old environment will be pulled backwards. A new identity without new habits is a fantasy. Transformation must grow up and show up in your calendar, your conversations, your work, and in your cash. Okay? Now, I have talked for the last many episodes about story, and it plays a role here too. All right? Your story or the acts of becoming brought you to where you were before you had that moment of inspiration. Right? That was the story of your becoming up to then, because up to then, that's what you had become. Whatever habits, barriers, limitations, or blocks you had, that's where you were. When you have a breakthrough, you have to continue being the author of your story. Tracking and recording and using your story is not nostalgia. It is part of the rebuilding and reconstruction, because it forces you to examine what you believed. It forces you to be honest about what you survived. And often there's great power there that we dismiss. It helps you see, as you look at the different parts of your life, where you changed. And if you're now in the moment of change, again, and you should be, and I'm saying the word should advisedly, I feel like we're on perpetual growth. I am, and I love it. But examining where you changed, what helped you change, what does the change look like, and how does it show up in the world, that's all part of the story. If you go somewhere or you've been somewhere that caused an insight, the question is, what decisions happened after that? Which ones mattered? What truth emerged that you now live in? Not that you say or you think about. What do you now refuse to let be part of your life? What do you offer? And I don't just mean products and services. You pay me $100 or $1,000 or whatever for this, but it is the soul and heart. Who have you become that you now offer? Because this story, as you track these changes, it's the blueprint for your new life. The most important gift that you have, and I say this a lot, so if you've heard it before, hear it again. The most important gift you have is the story of your becoming, because what you have become is all you have to offer. Everything else is just selling widgets, selling T-shirts, and hoping people like them. When you write the story of your own becoming, you stop being a random collection of events. You start being a coherent, powerful, focused, value-creating machine. Now, I want you to raise your hand if you want to impact 1 million people. I want you to raise it higher if you want to impact 1 billion. Oh, that's impossible. No, it's not. It is not impossible. Nothing is impossible. But you do have to walk the road that goes there. You want to be a millionaire? You want to make $1 million a year? That's possible. But you have to walk the road that goes there. I know I have. And the most powerful tool to do that isn't investing in crypto, although that might be good or have been good, or in certain stocks or becoming a savvy investor, although those things are good. The most important thing you can do to change the world, to add good, to feel good about yourself, and to get paid well is write the story of your becoming and then use the learnings from that journey to serve. And it's really simple, because those learnings are the core of your power. If you've been through trouble and struggle and you have overcome or are overcoming, that journey right there is the most powerful thing you have. And the reason is because it's who you are. Everything else we have is talking about something we see or we know, or maybe we learn to do. When you speak or teach or create products and services from who you have become, you're invincible, you're unique, you're a unicorn, you're unstoppable, and all of the rest of the beautiful words that we'd all like to have. You start creating the real architecture of your life, and that's huge. Now, I have discovered that this writing a book is the best way to do this. And it is the best way. I say it without hesitation, and there's several reasons. It takes a lot of discipline. right? It is not a trivial thing to do because it's a monologue, right? And if we don't write it well, nobody reads it. 2 pages, it's like boring, stupid. So learning how to tell the story of your becoming in a way that is powerful for the reader is easy to do, but it's a skill and you have to learn it. What I know about the story of your own becoming is the first person that it impacts is you. It'll change your life. It'll elevate you 10 steps on the ladder of becoming. It'll elevate your business. It'll elevate your power. It'll elevate your authority and your stature in the area that you work. Without examining and mining the story of your becoming, you're leaving $1 million a year on the table. Take it or leave it. You are. Okay? We don't do the work of mining life and writing a book because they're cute. We don't do it because we just want to say I have a book. Writing, because it's a monologue, it forces order. It forces reconstruction. It forces creating the blueprint for who you've become. Because when you look through your story and see the things you've done, then your authority is organized. And until you do that, your authority is scattered. You're all over the place. Okay? If you don't reconstruct your life, you're going to slide back. That's not a threat. It just is. The environment, the habits, all those things we talked about, if we don't change those, I don't care where we go, on Necker Island with Richard Branson or, to Bali with some exotic retreat, you come back, you're toast, unless you change the surroundings and everything else. Not because the inspiration was fake, because gravity exists. Physical gravity, emotional gravity, energetic gravity, spiritual gravity. It will pull you right back where you were. You'll return to the old pattern, and the old room, and the old language. Now, that's not a threat, and it's not defeatist. It is actually encouragement, because I want you to stop. What I want doesn't matter. I'm inviting you to stop thinking that one more event and one more book and one more guru and one more this and that and the other is going to fix you, because it ain't. It might wake you up, but if you don't take the steps to rebuild your life, your language, your patterns, your habits, your relationships, you're done. So here's the point. Do you have, because I know you have a yearning to serve, you have a yearning to get paid with the experience of your life, or you wouldn't be here. You have a learning to live your ultimate life, or you wouldn't be here. And so the activity, the action that has to follow is an intentional reconstruction. Because otherwise the old business model and the old hiding and the old undercharging and the old someday work is going to eat your lunch. And you know that. And the tragedy is people blame the moment. They say, it didn't work. I guess I wasn't really healed. Maybe it wasn't real. Maybe I am broken. That's not true. You had a real opening. You just didn't go home and build a structure. Okay? The failure was not in the moment. It was in the missing architecture. So your invitation right now, yourultimatelifepodcast.com. You see that URL, yourultimatelifepodcast.com up here? Not Dream, Build, Write It, but the other one, Your Ultimate Life Podcast. If you want to know how to build the scaffolding that will never fall so you can create your ultimate life, reach out to me. There's a contact form on yourultimatelifepodcast.com. Let's talk and see what you have, what you've done, and if you're ready. Because what I've done for myself and clients is to help you write books, create programs, make $1 million. I'm going to create 3,000 millionaires, and you can be one of them, but you have to do the work. You can't blame inspiration for stuff that only reconstruction can do. You can't live a new life inside the architecture of the old one. Why would we want to do that anyway? Because the old one got us where we were, right? So your invitation, and like I said, the most effective way I know is to write the story of your becoming. All right, and that's what Dream, Build, Write It is about. DreamBuildWriteIt.com. Go there, sign up. Doesn't cost you anything except 5 hours. Coming up in a few weeks. If you've already written the book of your own becoming, then my question is, what are you doing with it? Have you changed the world? Have you created products and services that allow you to serve from what you identified in that book? If you haven't, come to Dream, Build, Write It, because this is not just about a book. It's about an entire authority architecture to help you create a life you love, the ultimate life, purpose, prosperity, and joy. And whether you use my system or not, I don't care. What I do care is stop spinning, stop staying in place, stop blaming others and circumstance, stop blaming the moment of inspiration. It's the action afterwards that matters. My whole work is not just to reach 300 million people with the message of WIPOS, worth, identity, possibility, ownership, and sovereignty, but it's to do something with it. My specialty is in design, building, execution. Design, build, and live your ultimate life. Otherwise, what have we done? We've dreamed and been sad. We've dreamed and been crushed. We've dreamed and been defeated. That's not you. It's time. You can have your ultimate life. It's in your hands. And we have to start walking the road. If you want my help, either writing the book or telling the stories or creating a service and products from your life, Dream, Build, Write It's for you. If you just want to talk, or if you have a story about overcoming you want me to share, I'd love to. I love having stories to share. Then yourultimatelifepodcast.com, use the contact form and write the word guest podcast as the URL or as the email title. Guest podcast. I want to share your story. If you have had the moment of inspiration and then moved forward to build the architecture. The challenge for our lives isn't just about writing. The book and process is the best one I've found, but it's about taking what opened for you, what changed, what hurt, what healed, and then turning it into something powerful and useful. If you've been swirling for days or weeks or years, and you've had these inspirations, but you haven't built anything, and you're not making an enormous impact and getting paid well, I can help with that if you want to, if you're ready. So I invite you, share your story with me, yourultimatelifepodcast.com. Come to the challenge, dreambuildwriteit.com. Sign up, but don't just sign up. Show up live. Come be with me. The transformation's in the room, and I can show you how to take your experience, your transformative moments, and change the world. The last book I just published is called Masterpiece. Seize the day. Live your purpose. Change the world. And I wrote that book because it is a description of how I live. You have that. You are a divine being. I love you. You are amazing. I don't know if you're living like that or just dreaming about it. But remember, relief is not reconstruction, so come and build. That is a powerful note to sound as you build your ultimate life.
Never hold back and you'll never ask why. Open your heart and this time around.
Right here, right now. Your opportunity for massive growth is right in front of you. Every episode gives you practical tips and practices that will change everything. If you want to know more, go to KellanFluckigerMedia.com. If you want more free tools, go here, yourultimatelife.ca. Subscribe. Share.
Stand with your heart in the sky.